All right, good afternoon. This is Dennis Miracle. Today I'm going to be making the new Hexi design, which you will see here on the screen. So I have already put in my hoop with my stabilizer, which I use paper towels as my stabilizer, and I have already ran the first step, step one, and then I'm going to put down, the next thing you need to do is put down whatever you're going to use as batting. And this is about the third day in a row I haven't gone to pick up some batting, so I'm still going to use wherever it's at. Let me turn around here. A piece of this old towel, old purple towel, and I'm going to be doing the 6x6 design today, and I would cut the piece of batting probably 8x8 to make sure it's plenty big enough to cover the design. So in fact, this one is cut even bigger than that. I think I cut this 9x9, but if you're doing the 6x6, certainly an 8x8 cutting of the batting would be sufficient, more than sufficient. So let me stick this piece of terry cloth towel, which is going to be my batting, and let me stick that on the hoop and run step two. And step two will just run all the placement of where all the different pieces of fabric, cotton fabric, will go. So let me run that and I'll be right back. All right, this is not super easy to see, but I think you can see the 7 Hexi designs there in the towel. And the next thing we need to do is look at our sewing screen on our embroidery machine, and it will show that the first one to be done is the top, the very top one. So I'm going to stick a piece of fabric over this top one here, and we'll take it from there. I'll sew it down and then I'll show you how to trim it. Okay, just wanted to show you I cut a small piece and placed over the outline of that top Hexi, and we're going to, I'll sew it down now. Okay, as you can see, this piece of fabric has been sewn down, and I need to trim. The only areas you need to trim are the sides of the design where it touches another of the Hexi outlines. So these 3 sides here need to be trimmed. The other 3 sides need to be left as they are. So let me do that trimming. I'm going to cut right in here and then down and just follow this, and then when I get over here I'll cut straight off. So let me do that and I'll be back in a moment. Alright, you can see where I trimmed the 3 sides here that connect to the other pieces of the design or parts of the design, and I left the other 3 just as they were. So now let me look on the machine, and alright, the next one down is this one here to the right of the one we just did. So I'll find a piece of fabric for this one. So let me do that and I'll be back in a moment. Alrighty, you can see that I have placed, come on camera, turn. You can see that I've placed the next piece of fabric down, and let me stick it in the machine and let the machine sew it down, and then I'll be trimming. I'll be back in a moment. Okay, just like the last one, we want to trim around only the sides that do not touch other pieces of the design. So that would be that would be That would be, we want to leave this untrimmed, and this untrimmed, but the rest of these 1, 2, 3 need to be trimmed. So that's the rule. You only trim, except for the one in the center. The center gets trimmed all the way around when we get to that point. But for the others going around, the 6 others making the exterior perimeter, all of those you trim those in the same way you trim those who have contact with other pieces. You only trim them where they contact the other pieces on 3 of the sides. So let me start trimming. Okay, you can see where I have trimmed. I trimmed, of course, here where it butts up against the first one we put down, and it's going to butt up against another piece here and another piece here. So let's put another blue down to go right here. So let me cut that piece and I'll put it on there and sew it down. All right, I am going to go in and cut starting right here. I'm going to trim this piece, this side here, and this side here, because they will all be touching other parts of the pieces of the design. So let me go ahead and do that, and I'll show you what that looks like in a moment. Okay, that's what it looks like trimmed, and I've looked already on my machine over here, as you can see. And the next one down is the one at the very bottom at the 6 o'clock position. So let me cut another orange piece to go here at the 6 o'clock position. Okay, this piece is sewn down, and I'm going to trim starting right here, and right here. Those will be the pieces that are adjoining the other pieces. So anyhow, let me do that, and I'll show you what that looks like in a moment. Alrighty, that one's trimmed, and I've looked, and we move over, of course, to this next piece here at the 8 o'clock position, and it's going to be the blue piece. So let me cut a piece of that and put it over the design and sew it down. So I'll be right back. Okay, you can see the piece has been sewn down, so I'm going to trim it right here, starting right here, and right here. Those are the 3 sides that are going to touch the other sides. So I think I probably don't need to continue showing this, but I'm almost done. I might as well. I think you get the idea. The only pieces that you trim on these hexes are the pieces that are going to touch other hexes. So you need to leave a nice little bit of fabric here on the outside for when you decide if you're going to use this as a quilt block or whatever for when you do your final trimming. So anyhow, let me do the trimming on this, and I'll put a pink or an orange piece down right here and sew that down. Okay, and that's how that piece should look. So I'm going to put in this piece up here now. Okay, you can see this piece has been sewn down, so I'm going to trim right here, and right here. So let me do that, and I'll be right back. All right, it's now trimmed, and so we're going to put the last piece in, which I need to be the orange piece, because there's a heart that is going to be embroidered on this, and it won't show very well here. And also there are hearts on all of these, and I'm not going to put the hearts on these colored ones. I'm going to put them only on the orange pieces because they will show up so well there. So, but anyhow, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me put the next one down and get it sewn down. Now the center piece has been sewn down, and this is the only one that gets trimmed all the way around on all 6 sides. So let me do that. All right, now all of the what I call the piecing, all the piecing is done, and let's look and see where we go now. Okay, we see we go here up at the top to do the hearts. As I said, I'm not going to put hearts. Each of the heart motif for each of these 7 pieces of the pattern are in separate steps. So you can, as in this case, I'm going to omit this one and move to the next step, which should be, let me make sure and run that Next step. Yes, the next step is this one, and I'm going to put only hearts on the solid color pieces. So I'm going to run all those at the one right after the other, but just know that there are heart motifs for all of the 7 pieces. I'm just not going to run them for these blue parts. So let me do that, and I'll be back when all of these 4 pieces are run. All right, you can see all of the pretty motifs, the heart motifs have been placed, and as I said, they were only placed on the solid color pieces, even though there are the same motifs for the colored parts. I just didn't want to put those on there. And then the next thing we're going to do, which will be step 17 out of 20, is the machine is now going to do the pretty stitching around the individual motifs, the pretty crazy quilt stitching so along the seams. So let me get that done. I'll be back in a moment. All right, you can see all of the crazy quilt stitching has been done along the seams, and then the next thing that's going to happen is it's going to be an exterior. It's going to sew around the exterior of each of these pieces, just on the exterior, just around the exterior. So you want to be careful with the pieces that are sticking up, and maybe turn your machine down slowly, a little slower if you can do that. And you might want to also raise your presser foot if you have the ability to do that. I know here in the Baby Lock does have that capacity, so it doesn't snag these pieces as it comes around. So anyhow, that's my recommendation. So let me do that, and we're moving on here, getting ready to finish this up. So I'll be right back. Okay, you can see that another line of stitching has been put out here, even farther out. You can see it right here where my fingertip is. And so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put, if you're using this as a quilt block, then basically you're done at this point. You would take it out of the hoop and then trim around the pieces here, each individual piece, to whatever you're going to use as far as your seam, how much you want your seam to be, a 1/4 inch or whatever you're using. But I'm going to make this into a mug rug, so I'm going to continue with the last 2 steps. And as I say, next I need to take this out of the hoop, turn it over, and place a piece of fabric here on the back. And I've got another piece that's cut about 9 inches. I'm going to tape it down here on the back side, and you want to make sure that's right side up. Tape it down and then run step 19, which will be going around the exterior just like it just did, only this time it will be putting zigzag stitches to give a little bit of reinforcement. So anyhow, let me do that and run step 19. Okay, you can see that zigzag stitch has been run along the entire perimeter of the individual pieces. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take this the hoop out of the machine, and we are going to let's look and see what happened on the back side first. Yes, it looks fine. And I don't know why this camera is jumpy. It's brand new and it's expensive, so it shouldn't be jumping. But anyhow, you would probably want to change to a bobbin thread that would match your fabric here, but I'm too lazy to do that, so we're just going to go with the white bobbin thread. And so what you need to do now is start either on the back or the front. You need to take your scissors and you need to trim right along here at the right up to the edge of the zigzag stitches all the way around here on the cotton pieces. When you're done with that, trim Okay, before my phone died on me, I was telling you you need to go around and do the trimming of all of the pieces of the fabric, individual pieces, and you see that I've done that. And now you need to do the same thing for whatever you're using as batting. And after you're done with that, you need to turn your hoop over and you need to trim this back piece also right up to the zigzag stitches. So let me continue on with my trimming as you continue on with yours, and I'll be back in a bit. All right, you can see I've done the trimming, and unfortunately with the towel it doesn't trim very well. I'm going to trim a little bit more after I put the camera down, but hopefully the next thing we'll be doing is the satin stitches. Hopefully they will cover most of that, and then on the back you can see I've trimmed that. And so if you've looked at my other videos with these blocks, I always go around twice and I run the satin stitch step twice. So I just back it up one step after the first one's done and run it again. And the satin stitch is number 20, is step 20, which is the last step. So let me do a little bit more work on trying to get rid of some of this terry cloth, which I would never recommend. But as I say, I'm out of my regular batting, so I've just grabbed something I could use to do this with. And so I'm going to work on it a bit more, then I'm going to put this in the machine and let it do the satin stitch. So I'll be back in a bit. Alrighty, I'm finally finished. I ran 2 rounds of the satin stitching, and so what I'm going to do now is, since I use paper towel as my stabilizer, it should just pull right away as you see it's doing. And maybe you've got tear away, hopefully it'll just tear right away. And then I'm going to take my, started to say knife, but no, I'm not going to take a knife. I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to go all around this design and cut off these little remnants of the terry cloth towel. And that shouldn't take more than about 3 or 4 minutes, and most of that will go away and it'll look great. So anyhow, let me do that and I'll show you the final product in just a few minutes. Okay, I did the trimming, and it's not perfect, but it's just for me, so it's good enough. Don't use towels. Use regular batting. It wouldn't look like that if the batting were used, but like I say, it's all I had in the house at the moment, and I wanted to make this video just to show you the technique. So anyhow, I hope you've enjoyed watching me make this, and I hope that if you get the design, that you'll make something pretty for yourself or a family friend or a loved one. And I just thank you for all the support that all of you keep giving me, and words of encouragement. They mean so much. So I've got many, many more patterns to get out, and I'll be back in a day or two with another tutorial. Thank you so much. Good night.